what's up, everybody? Welcome to Frank Analysis. I'm your host, Franco. Tulsi Gabbard had some comments about Africa, and she had some comments about 9/11. And I gotta say, they were disappointing. I've defended Tulsi Gabbard for a long time, and I haven't really spoke about her in a while. But a lot of it has to do with her not being as much in the public eye as she used to be. But also, I've had my realizations post the 2020 primary about electoral politics. So the reason why I and many others supported Tulsi Gabbard is because she would criticize U.S. involvement in other countries, and she would criticize it as regime change wars. Like that's what she would call it, and it's pretty self-explanatory when you say that. Like, why are we in these wars? Regime change. We want to remove the leaders from those countries and install a puppet leader that will do the bidding of the U.S. and the U.S.'s corporations. She was still like, I still stand by saying that she was the best candidate in the 2020 election, in the Democratic primaries, aside from maybe Mike Gravel. But in terms of people who made it far, candidates who made it far, she was the best candidate. But yeah, like I said, I've learned more, as I've informed myself more after the primaries about election integrity and the way the Democratic Party operates with corporations and how deep it goes. It goes even deeper than I had thought, like a year ago. There is no way I see our country changing via reformism. I don't think we can change the system from within. We need more direct action, and we need more community organizing and opting out of the system, which we will get into in the solutions talk later in this live stream. So the most a politician can do, since we can't since I don't think we can change our system from within, the most a politician can do, if they do get elected and then they get into office by some miracle, or if they have like some kind of realization, like when they ran on being more moderate, but then they get in and then they have some kind of realization. The most a politician can ever do, if they truly stand with the people, and if they truly want to bring the most efficient kind of change, is to expose people, to expose the system, to expose corruption. And I kind of had some level of understanding of that 2 years ago, and like a year and a half ago, when I heard Tulsi Gabbard's speeches, when she was calling out the military-industrial complex, when she was calling out the intelligence community, which no other candidate did, other than probably Mike Gravel. And not only that, but during the debates, she did what Bernie Sanders wouldn't do, which was to call out Kamala Harris and Tim Ryan and Pete Buttigieg. So I had a lot of hope in her, and so did a lot of people. And at the end of the day, though, it looks like Tulsi, much like all other politicians, is primarily thinking about her career over the people. And I know that she had signed a contract in order to endorse whoever becomes the Democratic nominee. But the best thing that she could have done is to say that she supports whoever wins, rather than saying, Joe Biden and then giving him a tongue bath after that. And back then I did defend her because I understood her decision. But now I see it a little bit more negatively because of everything that I've learned about how I don't think that we can change our system via reformism. And I just think that we just got to go all the way. Like, if you're in her position, you got to go all the way and just don't stop exposing corruption. But I mean, I still understand why she didn't say Bernie, because of the way that his campaign was treating her and how he himself was treating her. And because she had contacted Bernie's campaign and they probably had told her he was going to drop out soon. Who knows? But I mean, like I said, she should have just said, I support whoever wins the primaries. And that's it. No need to give Joe Biden, the warmonger, a tongue bath. Now, Tulsi had made some recent tweets, again, that were really disappointing, which I'm going to show you guys right now. So here's the first one. And then there's a video that goes along with it. She said, Aloha, you haven't heard much from me lately as I've been gone for the last 4 months on an active duty tour and deployment to Africa as a civil affairs officer supporting a special forces mission to go after Al Qaeda affiliated jihadists. It was truly my honor to work with the incredible patriots, experienced, focused warriors with an unwavering commitment to serve our country. We should never forget that no matter the decision made by politicians/careerists in the Pentagon, it is our men and women in the uniform who selflessly and quietly defend the safety, security, and freedom of our country every single day. I haven't posted much since I was gone because I was asked not to talk about my going overseas until my mission was completed. Al Qaeda is very active where we were, and as someone who has a high profile, I would have been a prime target for the enemy, putting my life and the lives of my fellow service members and our mission in great danger. I look forward to discussing the foreign and domestic issues and challenges facing our country. Now, isn't this, let me ask you guys, isn't this in a way giving the excuse, manufacturing consent about going into other countries, like in sending troops to other countries, by using the excuse of how we need to fight terrorism? Because that's what I see. She's saying we got to go there to fight Al Qaeda, but then we got to remember who's calling the shots, and she even acknowledged that about the Pentagon. So I see this as problematic, and also we can't forget about the role that AFRICOM plays here. And I just discussed this with Yolian Ogbu, and also when I had on Seb Solomon as guests, about the reason why the U.S. and the Western countries are now looking at Africa as a reason, as a place, as a ground spot for the war on terror, without the consent of the continent. Like she's right on Syria. Like Tulsi Gabbard is right on Syria about how we shouldn't be going into their country and be making decisions for these people. Like it's not our place to be in that country. So the same standards should apply to these African countries, shouldn't they? Let me show you guys something. So I wanted to bring this article back up because this is an article that I discussed with Yolian when I had her on. Let's remember who AFRICOM is. So the African Command, or AFRICOM, was founded in 2007 by the George W. Bush administration and is based in Stuttgart, Germany. President Barack Obama vastly expanded its operations. And I forgot to mention that this is an article that was written by TJ Coles on the Gray Zone. AFRICOM's current AOR covers 53 of the continent's 54 states, with Egypt in the northeast already under the AOR of CENTCOM due to its strategic value. More below. AFRICOM recently bragged about how it helped coordinate with Somali partners, meaning elements of the regime imposed on the country by the West, to organize the Biden-led bombing of al-Shabaab. AFRICOM says the command's initial assessment is that no civilians were injured or killed given the remote nature of where this engagement occurred, but who knows? U.S. commanders operating in the African theater have tended to dismiss the notion that civilian deaths should be tallied at all. In 1995, for example, the U.S. wound down its assistance to the UN mission in Somalia, but ended up in a shooting war in which several Somalis died. The U.S. commander, Lieutenant General Anthony Zinni, said at the time, "I'm not counting bodies. I'm not interested." And this is just the mentality that these people at the top who call the shots, or who play a big role in what gets decided on what we do in these countries in the global south, they have very little regard for the lives, the innocent lives in these countries. And something that article goes into, and something that we should know by now, is that our involvement in these other countries, when we fund these terrorist organizations, like we've had for decades, it just exacerbates the situation in those countries. We're creating more terrorism that way, right? We create these terrorists, we fund these terrorists, and then they get so big, And then we say, oh my God, look at all the horrible things that these terrorists are doing in these countries. We got to put an end to it. We got to go in that country and stop these terrorists. So, but from that tweet, I get the sense that she's manufacturing consent by using the excuse of the war on terror. I don't know about you guys. There's something else I wanted to show you guys real quick. So this is from Seb Solomon. I wanted to show because this was, I thought it was well said. One second. So she said, you were in Africa as a civil affairs officer assisting special forces with operations hunting down jihadists. Why is AFRICOM okay, but you speak out against occupation of Syria? On behalf of Somalia, the Sahel, Mozambique, DR Congo, Sudan, Libya, Nigeria, F off. And there was one more. Hang on a sec. To supporters of civil liberties, I 100% echo your freedom-oriented sentiment. However, stop defending and supporting politicians who may support your domestic civil liberties, but do not have that same respect and energy for the civil liberties of those abroad. Be consistent. Exactly. Think about, the civil liberties of the people in these other countries, like when we invade them or when we get involved and then we find out later that we had funded certain terrorist groups in those countries that exacerbated the situation there. And then we use that as an excuse to go there, all for what? You guys know this. We go there for the rare earth minerals that are in those countries. And then we use that for the Great Reset and the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And then what do they do with those resources? They use it to enrich these big green billionaires, and they use it to increase surveillance in our very own country. This is why we say domestic policy equals foreign policy. As these corporations, these multinationals empower themselves by obtaining resources from these other countries, they become more powerful so that they can oppress you directly here at home and implement policies that can affect you directly and make you more and more powerless. Another tweet that, I've even seen some of her really hardcore defenders say that they were disappointed by this tweet a couple days ago on 9/11. So Tulsi Gabbard said, let us never forget, hashtag never forget, that it was the Islamist ideology which inspired the terrorist attacks and declaration of war against America on 9/11. And it is this Islamist ideology that continues to fuel terrorist attacks around the world and is the foundation for so-called Islamic countries like Pakistan, Turkey, Iran, and Saudi Arabia's discriminatory policies against Christians, Hindus, Buddhists, atheists, etc. Now, the focus about everything that happened regarding 9/11, like if you look at what led up to that event, it was because of U.S. foreign policy. It exacerbated situations in other countries with the involvement of the CIA and Mossad and Pakistan. And when we create chaos in these countries, like we were mentioning earlier, this creates more terror. So I mean, people are out. It makes people feel like they have to be out on a vengeance. And then when things like this happen, like this is exactly what George Bush and like the Republicans and the administration and the warmongers during that time were using as an excuse for why we need to go to war. We say, oh, it's because of Islamists. Like if it was solely because of that, do we need to go to war and put innocent people's lives at risk while we're there? If we can prove without a doubt that it was because of them that that they caused these attacks, then let's bring them and put them on a trial, or put them on trial in somewhere. Just put them on trial, right? We don't have to necessarily go to war. right? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts, because that's what I think. I don't, but they use this as an excuse so that corporations like Halliburton, in the military-industrial complex, the big oil, the banks, so that they can keep empowering themselves, so that people can feel, so that they fearmonger people about these extremists in other countries and how we need to put an end to them. It's not going to come to an end like that. If anything, you're only making it worse. To be fair, she said Islamists, not Islam, but then she doesn't talk about how she listed up Hindus and Christians, and she doesn't mention how Islam is also a victim of Islamists. And she's not necessarily doing this, but a lot of people in the US during the early 2000s, and even now, tell people of the Islamic belief that they should apologize for Islamists, even though they have nothing to do with that. That's like telling a Christian, like an American Christian, to apologize for the Westboro Baptist Church, even though their beliefs don't align with what the Westboro Baptist Church believes. And I want to read a comment that Shakur 422 left. He said, actually, it was inspired, planned, and carried out by the CIA, Saudi, Mossad cartel, which you should know because you had direct access to Congress, unlike us lowly plebs who just figured it out by looking at the public record. And he puts a picture here of the cover of Management of Savagery by Max Blumenthal, and another book by Scott Horton called Enough Already, Time to End the War on Terrorism, which gives historical context to what led up to 9/11 and how the US manufactured consent to go to war in Afghanistan and Iraq, which later on we also went to war with Libya and Syria and now Somalia. And we try to go to war now with Iran, and it's under any president that we have, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, that's serving the oligarchs. But yeah, that's just what I had to say. I thought, back then I had my hopes for Tulsi Gabbard, but regardless, when we say end the damn wars, we mean all of them. Not that includes war on terror. That includes getting the F out of Africa. Our presence there is only exacerbating the situation, like we've been saying. But yeah, no matter how much we like a person, no matter how much we agree on the person's ideologies, like on other things, no matter how much we think that they were the best candidate, we have to call out when somebody is wrong. Otherwise, we're just being sycophants. And if you're a critic of of people who still watch TYT, or of people who still support AOC, then you're being a hypocrite. So I would love to know what your thoughts are. Thank you guys very much, and stay informed.